Okay, my man. Let's keep it moving into the meat and potatoes of the show here. We're gonna switch gears, and we're gonna dive into this whole idea of political advertising strategy. So, here at the Ad Hero podcast, we love to hear from all sides of the table, all parties. We are, neutral from that perspective of, it's great the fact that our country has right-wing conservatism and left-wing liberalism and liberals, and I think it's excellent that these groups can kind of come together and they can banter and they can debate and they can go at each other. I think it's what makes our country so incredible. Okay, and so if you're listening right now, it doesn't matter if you're going for a seat in the Congress or in the Senate or maybe in your own local community just as a council member. And then, hey, all the way at the very top, President of the United States, anything in between. These strategies that we're about to get into can help you out. And the biggest one that's getting the most news attention right now is the social media advertising aspect. Yes. So, Gino, what are some talking points here that you've been able to find if someone's listening and they're thinking about putting some of their campaign dollars into online advertising? We're talking Facebook and Google. What do you got?
Well, for one, actually one thing I didn't list here, but I learned today is that if you're a small business, Facebook is a great place to start for your advertising, as well as TikTok for as long as it's around. But also, I found very interesting, though. If you're going to be on Facebook and you're going to be reporting news, then you have to be a legitimate news organization and not just claim that you're news, but you're really representing a political group or outfit. Because all the tech companies, I went to Washington, D.C. a few weeks ago and were in a hearing. The government has cracked down on them, and now Facebook is like, okay, well, we are going to restrict groups who are claiming that they're news outlets, but really not. So if you're not like an ABC, Fox, Breitbart, whatever you are, then or Media Matters, then you are not going to be labeled in the Facebook's news tab. You'll still be on Facebook, but they don't want it where you won't be in the algorithm and kind of conflict people with propaganda.
I think that's fine. So that's good. They're helping to ideally separate fake news from real news.
Correct.
In theory. I applaud them for taking a chance. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. How can someone listening right now, if they're trying to run for their local Congress seat or a council member or Senate, something like that, how does that information apply to them with their political ads on the platform?
What they should do is connect it to all their other marketing. So for example, Billboard Advertising, or they can connect it through town halls. Something that's more personable, that you can actually reach your community and go out to.
Well, if I'm running for office and I want to put some of my budget into Facebook ads.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so we're just talking Facebook
Just
ads.
Facebook right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it still easy for me to label my ad campaign as a political campaign?
Oh, yeah.
Flag
that's
it as
easy.
that.
Yeah.
And is it still going to show up to the people I want it to show up
Absolutely.
to? So
Absolutely.
Facebook just wants you to take that added step of making sure you define that you're running for office and that you're running from a registered federal election committee. You
Correct.
have an FEC number,
Right.
all that stuff.
Yeah,
You're on the up and up.
If you're a PAC, if you're a politician, what have you, that's still all fine. They just don't want a outfit coming in claiming that they're in a news organization when they're really like a PAC.
Okay. I think that's going to be helpful then. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say your online advertising on Google and Facebook is still going to be a very powerful way to reach your constituents.
Correct.
Okay. Let's move on to a couple of other things here. So, in our research of trying to figure out what would be a great message to give everyone, all of our listeners today on this particular episode, what we wanted to break down were 3 things that just work and we just talked about one of them. So, and then 3 things that don't work, that we don't feel really kind of hit are effective use of your time or your campaign dollars.
Correct.
All right. So already, kind of the obvious elephant in the room is the Facebook, Google ads. So that one just is it's like its own standalone thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're running for office, you got to capitalize on having a fan page and a group, people that want to support you, because that's a free, easy channel to get the word out. But let's talk about 3 things here that work. And the first one that we came up with was virtual town halls. Virtual town halls using something like a Zoom or a Google video chat are the number one greatest way to get a hold of people in 2020, especially given the pandemic. And there's a hidden benefit that ties back into social with a virtual town hall. What is that hidden benefit?
The content. Gotta edit that one out. The content of what you provide in order to get everyone involved and come to your town hall.
Right. So if you're recording a 30-minute town hall, there could be some great questions that come up from the audience, and you have a great personal answer. Your campaign person can take a snippet of that 5-second clip and turn it into a content piece that you can drip out on your feed later on down the road, right? So that's kind of like double dipping. You're doing a virtual town hall. You're making yourself accessible to your local community, people you're trying to get to vote for you. And then in that 30-minute town hall, you might end up with 200 pieces of micro content that you can drip out for the next 60 days.
That's true.
All right?
Yeah.
So that's what we call a double dip. That is a huge, massive score. And it's so easy. You could set it up from your home with Zoom or, Google, and then you just put the link out there to your email list. You get everyone to log in at a Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. You look professional, and you just start inviting the audience to start feeding you questions, and it becomes a content gold mine. The second thing we came up with, this is like some old school stuff, but it still surprisingly is very effective.
Oh, yeah.
And it is recruiting volunteers in your local community to knock on doors and put signs in the ground. And Gino, why do you think that is still an effective, even though it's been around for probably over 100 years, why is it still effective in 2020?
Well, I've seen it effective in the last 2 major elections, and where it is that connection, that handshake, that eye to eye. Hey, I'm representing this person. This is what we believe in. Do we have your vote?
I like it. Plus, you get another added benefit of all the cars driving by and seeing those signs stuck in the ground that either say, I'm with Joe Biden or Trump, MAGA 2020. As those signs in the ground all over the place keep people driving by, see them, so there's exposure there. And then you, like you just said, you get the close one-on-one interaction with someone in the community. You get a chance to engage with some dialogue. So get your volunteers lined up and knocking on those doors. Please social distance, so maybe not a handshake, but maybe like a little air high five or something like that.
And one more thing too.
Oh, go for it.
Don't take the sign. If you don't like the political candidate at the person's house, don't take their sign off. And I wouldn't even touch it anyway, because I've seen a video where one person had their sign connected to some wires, and the person got electrocuted. They didn't die, but they was.
Well, there you go. See, don't mess with other people's
they had
signs.
karma.
So that's number 2. That still works. Number 3. Okay, number 3 is going to be Billboard Advertising.
Absolutely.
Now, again, the Ad Hero podcast, for full disclosure, is financially backed by adsymbol.com. We are a billboard website where you can book a billboard online through opendisplay.com. So this one is biased to us, obviously, but the truth of the matter is, in the last 2 elections, our website has seen a massive uptick in political candidates across the country logging into opendisplay.com and launching digital billboard ads to tell the community that they are running for office. And you think in 2020, given the pandemic, people are still now starting to get back on the roads. They are still traveling from point A to point B, and it's an easy way that you can sit at home. You can create an image on Photoshop or whatever, or one of your campaign associates can do that for you. and you can put your name out there, huge, massive in lights, to hundreds of thousands of people at pennies on the dollar. And that's why we added it to this list of what works. Because in the old days, you had to buy a billboard for 4 weeks at a time, and they were only the stacked kind, and you had to pay for printing, production, install. There's all this lead time to it and messy contracts. It was just a nightmare. So it was very prohibitive for someone running for a local community council member seat or a Congress seat or a state Senate seat. It was really only going to be accessible to the presidency or maybe a senator or something like that, big time, right? But now with the digital billboards, even for $20 a day, you can put your face out there to hundreds of thousands of people who might vote for you. Okay? Gino, what do you have to add about what you've seen being here in the company with political people utilizing the billboards?
Well, for one, when I have seen it, it's kind of a fight to get the space, because you can have one person who's running for office and they are on one billboard, and then the opponent sees that billboard and also wants, if it's digital, also wants to be on the same loop going through the digital. So that's it's kind of funny behind the scenes.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I love that competition, but it's effective. I
It
mean,
is effective.
people see it.
Yeah.
People see it, and it's a great way to complement your online advertising with that you're rocking with Facebook and Google. It'll actually even lower your online advertising cost, because the more people who
Absolutely.
know about you, when they search you out, your cost per clicks will go down.
Right.
And we've seen that time and again. And it'll complement your virtual town halls and your boots on the ground, people knocking on doors.
Correct.
All right. So there's your 3 key things that work. Now let's pivot and talk about 3 things that don't work. Again, this is from our own personal opinion, as well as research and thought and discussion. In 2020, if you're doing these 3 things, you might as well just chalk up an L for a loss, because you're not going to get elected if you do these 3 things. The first thing, over text messaging. This is a doozy.
This is definitely a modern day thing.
Okay, people love getting text messages, okay? But just like in all things in life, people love getting moderation in all things, right?
Right.
So if you get a list of phone numbers of people in your community, most likely it's going to be their cell phones, and most likely they can accept text messages. Just because you have that power to text message doesn't mean you should blow up someone's phone every 5 seconds.
And both sides are doing it, by the way, right now.
Right. It's because they don't understand how annoying that becomes.
And multiple times throughout the day.
And that's even more annoying. I'll tell you right now, if you text message me, if you're a political person from the right or the left, I don't care who you are, you start text messaging me 3, 4, 5 times a day, I'm blocking your number. I'm blocking your number, and then you're never going to get through to me anyways ever again. Plus, I'm going to be very turned off by your efforts, and I'm really not going to feel positive about wanting to vote for you. Okay? That's just me personally. You feel the same way?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
That's why I'm mentioning it.
All right. Okay. So please, for the love of God, just because you get a list of phone numbers, do not start mass text messaging 3, 4, 5 times a day. Once, maybe a week, every other week, no problem. I'll see it. I'm definitely going to see it, and it'll kind of pique my interest. I might click the link. I might figure out a little bit more about you if I'm interested, but that's it. Okay, number 2, automated phone call dialing systems. If you bought one of these, as fast as humanly possible, get your money back. Send it back, or like that famous scene in Office Space, take it out to a field with some baseball bats and start beating the crap out of it. These are the most annoying things ever. For those of you who don't know, I don't know how you don't know about this, but if you don't know about it, you can rig these things up to just go down a list of phone numbers and dial people and tell them to vote for you. We live in California. That's where this podcast is being recorded right now. And when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California, my parents' house would get these phone calls regularly. And as soon as they pick up the phone, hey, this is the governor. I really want your vote. I'm counting on your vote.
And in one aspect, it's kind of nice because, I could say that I've been on the phone with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, you think you were, but you were actually on the phone with a pre-recorded message, which kind of, makes it like more corny. But the worst thing is he would do it like again, kind of the same idea with the text messaging, 4 or 5 times a week. My parents' house would get these phone calls. And it was terrible experience, right? Just totally turned you off to wanting to vote for Governor Schwarzenegger at that time. Okay, so it's an old school tactic. It's like back in the day when there was very limited ways to get a hold of people, someone thought of this idea. But in 2020, you have all these other incredible ways that you get a hold of someone. Don't make the mistake of doing that. And the last thing on the list of what doesn't work in 2020, oversaturated email blasts.
Yes.
Okay, so if you hear the theme of these three things, what we're talking about is overkill, overkill, overkill. Nothing is also more annoying than getting 5, 6, 7 email blasts from your campaign in a given day or week, right? Okay, one email blast a week is sufficient. As you get closer and closer to the election, no problem. You can maybe ratchet that up to 2 or 3 emails a week as we get right on top of the election. Okay, but if you're starting to send out 4, 5, 6 email blasts a week right now in the month of July/August/September, you're killing yourself because it's going to go to my spam box, or I'm going to unsubscribe, which is even worse because if I unsubscribe, then you never get to keep reaching out to me.
You won't.
Yeah, I'm permanently off your list. So, Gino, do you have any other final thoughts on the oversaturated email blast thing? Are you annoyed by that, or do you agree with everything we said?
I am annoyed by that, but you know what, though? Sometimes the emails are kind of nice. Like, they're kind of like, oh, that's the interesting way to put things. But the text messages, for sure, done with.
Just again, moderation and all
Moderation.
things. Okay, so that was a lot to digest. We encourage you to go back and listen to this episode again and break it down, write it down. But in summary, are 3 things that work. Virtual town halls, where you get the social media content spin-off, boots on the ground, putting signs in the ground, knocking on doors, and digital billboard advertising from opendisplay.com.
Correct.
I even heard of a committee right now. There's a group, I think it's Land of the Free Committee or something like that, and they're doing a GoFundMe fundraiser to raise money to do a digital billboard campaign. This is what we're talking about. So that's fantastic. That works. That works in 2020. 3 things that don't work: over text messaging your people, automated phone calls, and too many email blasts.
Absolutely.
Just get all that off your plate. So we hope those strategies were helpful for your political aspirations. Gino, you got any other final thoughts before you bring us home?
No, not really. But yeah, it's a lot to digest, and keep your I guess you know what? Just keep your marketing open. Just have an open mind on what works and what doesn't work, and go through on that strategy, just like you would in normal business.
All right.